as many as were baptized into Christ, ye put on the Christ.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, our one true God. Greetings, everybody. God bless you, and thank you for taking the time to tune in to our weekly sermon / update / news hour / whatever is profitable for you to hear in this evil and sinful generation. This is the 27th week after Pentecost, and we celebrate today the great memorial of the Kursk Root Icon, along with St. Yaakovos the Persian and St. Gregory of Sinai, but it's a big feast day in the Russian Church, and she has been with us so many times, and she has blessed us so many times, because we are the remnant of the Russian Church. People will laugh, and they say, "You are a remnant of the Russian Church? Who do you think you are? You don't even speak Russian." Yeah. Isn't that amazing? That we can be the remnant of the Russian Church, even though the clergy doesn't speak Russian. How does that work? Because I was part of the Russian Church for most of my life, because I was ordained in the Russian Church, because I was made a bishop in Russia, still didn't speak Russian. We are the remnant. And why is that? Because Orthodoxy is about the true faith. It's not about being Russian or being Greek. And so while we were in the Russian Church, the Mother of God showed so much favor, blessing to us. I think it was in the 1970s. I was in the monastery in Boston. The Kursk Root Icon came and visited us, and it stayed in the monastery. I think Metropolitan Philaret was one floor down below me. But the icon was given to me in my cell. And what an honor it is to live with the icon, one of the greatest icons of Russia. Now, why did it come to my cell? I was just a simple monk, because I was asked to restore. Yes, to do some restoration work on it. And I was to photograph it. It stayed in my room. I took off the Rissa, a beautiful blue Rissa, gold, solid, heavy. The craftsmanship was exquisite. And so I took off the Rissa and I photographed the icon before I did restoration on it. So this is what it looks like without the Rissa. I don't know if anybody even knows what it looks like without the Rissa, but here's the picture of it. So after I saw it, there's very little restoration that I would dare to do. So I cleaned it. That's another thing I did. I cleaned it with chemicals. like the state-of-the-art icon restorers did and do. So I cleaned the Rissa also and put it back on the icon, and I photographed it. And it took a long time to put the lights, because I had a 4x5 negative camera, because when am I going to get an opportunity to photograph the Kursk Root Icon? Saint Seraphim was healed by this icon. I had to, and the face of the icon is about this far away from the face of the Rissa. So it was deep. All right, so I don't have to explain very much, but I had, with much practice and error, to put the lights in a certain way that the face became visible. And so, after I finished all of that, I photographed it. Voila. And I made a print, and I said, now we have the best print that was ever made of the Kursk Root Icon. Glory be to God. And we have it.
Yes.
And here is a picture of it. So it stayed with me for a week. I hope I was a good host. And then in 1980, in the 80s, not 1980, in the 80s, we were at the present location, and the Kursk Root Icon came. It came to Denver, and I was given the privilege to take it on a plane because it visited the monastery. It was a blessing. What a blessing. There was a conference in St. Louis, and they wanted the icon there. So a week before the conference, it came here. The people who brought it had to leave, and they told me, take it on the plane and bring it to St. Louis. Fine. It doesn't weigh a light weight. It's a heavy weight. Mm-hmm. But you put it around your neck, you put it around your, and it has its own pouch, and you bring it on the plane. Mm-hmm. Well, this is before 9/11. So I just bought myself a ticket, and they said, what's that? I said, I should have said it's a picture of my mama. It's just an icon. And no questions. No one even wanted to look at it. So I went on the plane and got off the plane in St. Louis, and there I relinquished the icon to the conference that was in St. Louis. The bishops that were there was Bishop Alipi. It was of his diocese. Then we brought electricity to the monastery in a miraculous way. And so because of that, life changed. And we were able to have a building that had a furnace. So we were able to build a cathedral, a big church. It only became a cathedral after I was made a bishop. In 1993, after we received the ability to have electricity, we started plans to build a convent, mm-hmm. and we made plans for the foundation of the Cathedral of the Dormition. And lo and behold, the icon of the Kursk Root came at that time. And so we were able to walk all around the footing for the foundation of the church, and we went down to where the convent is and blessed the land with the Kursk Root Icon. What a blessing. Mm-hmm. Then the next year, 1994, we're going to pour the footers. Now, the cathedral is built not on a flat area. it's built on the side of a mountain. It's not a mountain, it's a considerable hill. Rock. So in 1994, we're going to pour the footers. And I don't know if anybody knows how footers are put on an incline. It's not like flat. If it's flat, it would have been easy. But footers on an incline are steps. Steps. And when the footers were dug, we were preparing to pour the cement. The holy icon stayed at the monastery for about a week. And it stayed in my cell almost continuously. And again, I removed the Rissa and cleaned it as little as it needed. But it was a blessing. Now that we're starting the foundation of the cathedral, the icon came again. This icon goes all over the world. Well, except for the Soviet Union at that time. And then in 1995, the next year, we had built, it took a year. We had put the foundation down, put the slab down, put the walls up, put the ceiling, put the arches, put the vaults, put the dome on. Glory be to God. We put the plaster. We didn't. We had people plaster the inside. We had now an enclosed area. And lo and behold, the icon came again the next year. And one of the priests that brought it, the name of the priest that brought it was Father George Lauren. And it stayed here for several days. And we put it in the new enclosed cathedral. And we were there and perhaps doing a little bit of cleaning or showing Father George Lauren where everything is going and explaining that this church is built like all the churches of Mount Athos. And all of a sudden we hear this rumbling sound. And I said, what's coming? What's that? It's like a big truck. And a big semi came. Oh, yes. A big semi came with a container. A container on the back of the semi. Now, he didn't call. He didn't, I guess, well, he knew where to go. And where was it from? Because it was a surprise to us that our order that we had made for all the carved Iconstasis and proskenetarian and chanting stands, and they had all been put in one container, put on the boat, came to America, landed in New York, put on a semi, and came to the monastery. But it came exactly the day that the Kursk Root was here. And when the truck came up, I looked and I said, what do you have in here? And he says, it's from the island of Crete. I said, whoa, it all came today. And so, Father George Lauren helped us unload. That was how we are continuously blessed by the Kursk Root Icon. Glory be to God. And today is her feast day. And she blesses all those who will keep the faith and love her. And everybody. Well, this week we have Monday, St. Stephen the New, who martyred for the holy icons. St. Paramon and the 370 martyrs with him. Wednesday is St. Andrew the Apostle, the first called, whose portion of his relics are in the sacred monastery of Dermish and Skeet. Thursday is the prophet Nahum and St. Philaret the almsgiver, the name day of St. Philaret the confessor. And Friday is St. Abacum and Merope of Chios, the Virgin Martyr. And Saturday is St. John the Hesychist, the Bishop of Colonia, and St. Sophronius the Prophet. Okay. Glory be to God. We want to wish many years to our Andre in Romania. God bless you. Remember, St. Andrew is the line, the apostolic succession of the line of the Russian Church. St. Andrew went to Byzantium and ordained as bishop Stachios from all the bishops of Constantinople. They ordained, what was it, Michael? Michael, first bishop of Kiev. And that's how the Russian Church has its line. So the first called apostle, his line is from the Russian Church, and yes, you could laugh, it's to us. Although we don't speak Russian. Isn't that amazing? But we are the remnant of the Russian Church. And why is that? Because the faith is carried on, the church is carried on, not by whether you're a Russian or you're a Greek or you're an Arab. It's carried on because the faith is kept. And how come people can't understand that? Because the bishops nowadays are unprincipled. They're rogues, scoundrels. Well, it just so happened last week on Thursday, it was the 7th of December, 2023. What does that mean? Oh, that was Pearl Harbor Day. Yeah, that rocked the world, that brought the United States into the Second World War. But what happened on December 7th, the same day, in 1965? It was another shock for the Orthodox world. That's when every Orthodox Christian had their spiritual bank deposits, the spiritual wealth, were drained from them, and they didn't even know it. The spiritual wealth that they had disappeared. The grace that was in the Orthodox Church was forced away, and the people did not know it. They were hoodwinked by these wolves in sheep's clothing, by these scoundrels who decided that they are going to do what they want. They're going to do what they want because they think that they have the freedom now to dominate the teaching, the tradition of the Orthodox Church. What makes them think so? Because we are bishops, they would say. We are patriarchs, they would say. I'm a Patriarch of Constantinople. I'm the Patriarch of Antioch, of Jerusalem. I'm Greek, or I'm an Arab, or I'm Russian. I could do whatever I want. How's that possible? I'll explain how it's possible. Because if you did what they did on December 7, 1965, if you did that in Byzantium, you couldn't have gotten away with it. But now, since there is a canon in the church that says everything in the diocese of a bishop shall be put under his authority. Oh yes, there's this canon. So these scoundrels said everything has to be in our name. And so everybody apparently listened to them. They demanded that. So everything was underneath their name. But they did something horrible. They fell away from the church. They became ecumenists. In 1965, December 7, they left the church and hoodwinked everybody. And if anybody wanted to leave, sorry, if you left, you leave by yourself. You leave with nothing. Because the church is in my name. The church is in our name. And you have no recourse. Whereas if it was done in Byzantium, there was recourse. We had a king. We had an emperor. And if any bishop acted so disrespectful to the faith, you bet the king would wring his neck, to put it mildly. So bishops wouldn't act so horrible to the people. They wouldn't dare, because everybody had recourse to the protector of orthodoxy, the king. But now, no king. So these bishops said, we could do whatever we want. Who's going to stop us? Okay, let's gather money and build this big, beautiful church. Let's adorn it with icons. Let's endow it with all these wonderful things. And oh, by the way, I'm going to deny the faith and become a Mason. And there's nothing you can do about it. And if you don't like it, you could leave. And don't even dream of taking the church. Whatever church you have, a big church, a small church, it's all in my name, the bishop would say, and you can't do anything about it. Well, that's exactly what happened. And so on December 7, 1965, the wealth, the glory, the grace of the Holy Spirit left the ecumenical World Orthodox Church. Now, we had a parishioner named Barbara, and she was a sociologist, had her doctorate degree. In graduate school, she was studying different religions, social groups, and she found out, now this is in the turn of the century, 2000, and she said, this is why I converted to Orthodoxy, because of my findings. I was very well disposed to Orthodoxy because this is what I learned from all the statistics that were available in the United States and in Europe, which I had access to, about social development of these different groups. So she's studying religion. And so she's studying the oldest religion, Orthodoxy. And she's studying the conduct of the newer religions like Roman Catholicism, because it's 1,000 years younger. And then the newer religions like Lutheranism, that's 1,500 years younger. And then the Baptists and all of that, and Judaism, Judaism and all the Protestants. And she discovered that their conduct with regard to members in prison, members having abortions, members having divorces, members, you name it, felons. Because when a person went to prison, they're always asked, what is your religion? Members, suicide. So she's studying all of this. And she noticed something very strange, that Orthodoxy had the smallest increase in all of these categories of all the religions, except after 1965. Then after that year, she noticed that the instances of abortions, divorces, prison, abortion, they started increasing in what is called the Orthodox Church. At what rate? The same rate as the Roman Catholics, as the Lutherans, as all the other religions. There was a standard rate of increase among all the religions, except for Orthodoxy, up until the year 1965, or after 1965. When she joined the church, it all came together, because she learned that at the end of 1965 is when the apostasy of world orthodoxy took place. And here's our entry into the Orthodox timeline. The apostasy of world orthodoxy is completed December 7, 1965. Ecumenical Patriarch Athenagoras and Pope Paul VI simultaneously lifted the anathema of 1054. The anathema was placed on the papal heresy to protect the Orthodox from the blasphemous doctrines which lead to perdition. By lifting the anathema, Athenagoras officially proclaimed that the Pope and his followers were unjustly excommunicated, that the Church wrongly held the doctrine of papism to be false, and that, in truth, the Latin papacy is part of Orthodoxy. Really. An official statement from the clergy of the Patriarch said the following: the removal of the mutual excommunications between the two churches restored canonical relations between Rome and New Rome meaning Constantinople. On December 15th, it just took 1 week, 1965, Metropolitan Philaret of the Russian Church abroad, our church, writes a letter to the Ecumenical Patriarch protesting his December 7 actions. What other bishop in world orthodoxy protested? Zero. Why? What's wrong with them? How can you be in communion with a heretic? How long is it permissible for you to be in communion with a heretic? God does not permit it at all. So the only bishops that protested this in writing immediately are our Russian church bishops. And they condemned it and condemned it. So this is the mark of the great apostasy, because it's the first time where a bishop, not one bishop, but the whole synod of bishops of Constantinople, but not only the synod of bishops, but they had agreed with all the patriarchates. When Athenagoras told them, when I do this, don't you dare protest anything. So the Patriarchate of Jerusalem, Patriarchate of Antioch, Patriarchate of Alexandria, Patriarchate of Romania, Bulgaria, not one peep. They kept him, they kept their mouths closed, and in their silence they betrayed orthodoxy. This is the first time that anything happened like that in the history of the 2,000 years of orthodoxy. It's never happened. That's why it's called the Great Apostasy. They all fell away from the church. And so now, these bishops got away with murder. They spiritually killed their parishioners. No, they let them come to church, let them chant. They're nice big Greek churches, nice Russian churches, Antiochian churches, but they didn't realize that they were robbed spiritually. They probably said, hey, look, we'll do whatever we want. The people don't know the canons. They don't know that the Holy Spirit can just fly away from us if we do something wrong. The people don't know that. So what are we going to do? We're going to eat, we're going to drink, we're going to be merry, and say to our souls, soul, no one can touch you, so do what you want. So one of the things they did is, we want to become Masons. And I know every time we say this, we have some light-witted people who say, how do you know? There's no Masons in the Greek church. There's no Masons in the Antiochian church. There's no Masons. What are you saying? Why are you accusing these people? Where do you get the nerve to say such a thing? Well, so let's throw some light on this. Remember, 1965 is when this happened, where everybody was robbed. And when that happened, it tore apart families. Some people understood the laws of God and said no. And the other people of their family say, how can we leave the church? We put so much money into this church. We put so much time into this church. We learned to be on the choir. We learned our children in Sunday school. We can't leave this church. It doesn't matter what the bishop is. So he's an apostate. What are we going to church for? For social enjoyment. They're not going for the faith, to worship God in truth. You think God is in a church with a bishop that's a Mason? I don't think so. So, the Greeks were flirting. The Greeks were flirting with Masonry at a very early time. The Melis Lodge in Turkey was established in 1867 under the auspices of France Lodge, and had select members of the Society of Smyrna. In 1892, so there was a big lodge in Smyrna. And unfortunately, in 1922, there was a rebellion. There was turmoil. There was war. And many people died in Smyrna. And one of the founders of this lodge in Smyrna just happened to be the Metropolitan Chrysostom. Metropolitan, you say? Yes. The Metropolitan of Smyrna was a person that was working very hard to establish Masonry among his people. But he was caught in this war. A lot of people died. And one of the people who perished was the Masonic Metropolitan of Smyrna, Chrysostom. So what did the Greeks do? They proclaimed him a martyr because he died with the Orthodox people who died because they were who were killed because they were Orthodox. So he was proclaimed a martyr. How does that work? Why did he die? Because he was Greek. And you can't say he died because he was Orthodox, because he was, first of all, a Mason. What is Masonry? Everybody should understand. Masonry is a religion. You cannot have two religions. What does Christ say? You could only serve one master. You will love one or hate the other. So you can't be a Mason. And it's one of the most filthy religions in existence. But you say, oh, they build hospitals. Yes, they build hospitals. And they build post offices. And they help build things. They donate. Of course, you can't imagine they do all their evil things without doing some good. It doesn't happen. They have to cover up the evil with some good. So everybody doesn't care about all their evil practices. But they don't worship Christ. They don't worship the God of the Christians. They worship, yes, the devil. Masonry has infected the Greeks for a long time. So they proclaimed him a saint because he died in 1922 when all the Christians who died because they were Christian perished. And they are true martyrs. But this man had two heads, two gods, which is impossible. And some of the Greeks even proclaim it now. Chrysostom of Smyrna, an ethno-martyr, yes. A saint, no. What's an ethno-martyr? Someone that died because he's Greek. Well, you don't become a martyr because you're Greek. You become a martyr if you died because you are an Orthodox Christian. This is a famous book. Eminent and famous Greek Freemasons from the 1800 to 1970. The first volume of this book, there is on the cover, along with other Masons, the photograph of Chrysostom of Smyrna. And on page 192, 197, there is a special chapter dedicated to the Orthodox Bishop of Smyrna. This man was well ahead of his time as far as evil. He did not love orthodoxy. After all, he was a Mason. He was an active member of the Melis Lodge of Smyrna, mainly during the 3 years of 1919 to 1922, while the lodge in which he was initiated is not exactly known. The Masonic views of this Chrysostom, his heretical views, his pagan and pantheistic views, his anti-monastic ideas, his secular mindset, his unbridled ecumenism, his interperspective fallacies in the book of Revelation. Oh, brother. He tried to interpret Revelations. I wonder where that would get you. Which combines and correlates with the development of the military events in Smyrna. The prayer with the heretics, even back then, and their recognition as Orthodox. Can you imagine he recognized the heretics as Orthodox? His faith in the branch theory and so much more. So this Chrysostom of Smyrna taught this about 100 years ago. Abolition of the rasa. The rasa is this, which distinguishes a clergyman from all the other people in Greece or in Russia or whatever. The rasa is a symbol that you are a clergyman. The abolition of fasting. He doesn't want people to fast. Very good. That's what you do. The abolition of no work on feast days. No work on feast days. You must go to work, according to this man. Treat feast days as any ordinary day. There's no distinction. Shorten the church services. Abolition of the monastics. He didn't like monastics. Teaching Christian socialism, which sounds like communism. The coexistence of the church with science. Oh, that's going to get you. He wanted theologians to study in Europe for full training. Into what? To mess up their minds in scholastic gobbledygook? What can they learn about orthodoxy in Europe? So, this person was really mixed up, but because he died in 1922, the Greeks made him a saint. If he died in 1922, and they proclaimed him a saint, here we have an entry. In 1924, Metropolitan Miron is a Freemason, former Uniat hierarch, leader of the Romanian Church, accepts the March 24 change into the new calendar by Papadopoulos. In 1936, he accepts the validity of Anglican orders. I wonder if he was following the saint, Metropolitan of Smyrna. In 1925, the bishop and fellow Masonic Lodge member of Ataturk, Basil III, is installed as Patriarch of Constantinople, who probably knew well the life of Saint, the quote-unquote Saint Chrysostom of Smyrna. In 1948, Athenagoras, former Archbishop of North and South America, 33-degree Mason, becomes Patriarch of Constantinople. And after Patriarch Maximus is declared mentally unfit and forcibly retired, Athenagoras said, "We are in error," he says. This is the brilliance of Athenagoras. After he's made patriarch, he says this famous quote, "We are in error and sin if we think the Orthodox faith came down from heaven and that the other dogmas or religions are unworthy." Yep, right in line with Chrysostom of Smyrna. He probably thought the same thing. In 1959, Archbishop Yakovus of New York, 33-degree Mason, is elected and throned as primate of the Greek Archdiocese of North and South America. Now, what does he do? Does he establish his own Masonic lodge in the Greek Archdiocese? Well, maybe he does. Or maybe it started before him, but he certainly didn't mind. Because this Masonic lodge is there, even now. And it's deeply rooted in the Greek Archdiocese, where people say, "Oh no, there's no Masons here." What's the name of this lodge? It's called AHEPA, and it's only for men. But it can't be the only one, because they decided AHEPA is doing so well, let's make some more Masonic lodges. One more for men, Sons of Pericles, and a couple for women, the Daughters of Penelope, and the Maids of Athena. Where did these come from? Oh, they're part of AHEPA. They're an offshoot of AHEPA. And what are they? Masonic lodges of the Greek Archdiocese. So the Sons of Pericles, the Daughters of Penelope, and the Maids of Athena, these are all Greek gods. Pericles, Penelope, Athena, these are Greek pagan gods. What business does any Orthodox Christian have in being a member of a club? You could call it a club. They would love to call it a club. With these names, it's impossible. You cannot serve God and mammon. You can't have two religions. Masonry has infected the Orthodox Church through the hierarchs, whether you are Greek, Antiochian, Serbian, Bulgarian, Romanian. So that's another reason why you should turn your back on these people. Turn your back on them. It's not right. They betrayed you in 1965. And they still betray you, and they rub it in your face, probably every opportunity they can, that we are ecumenists. And it's okay to be an ecumenist. Oh yeah,